You are ready to start collaborating with your relationships, because this is how you're going to know who's available for you and what they're available for, rather than just bottling it all in, assuming that across the board no one is available, or that you need to suck it up and do whatever. And then you internalize it and go through these cycles of like debilitating emotions. Yo, what's up, everyone? It's Pixie. Welcome back to my channel. I have a message for a few of you. So sit back, get some water, get some tea, get some note, and enjoy. So the main part of this message was about changing the way that you are relating with people, really taking a step back and assessing and making conscious choices of how you want to carry out your relationships. So one of the biggest impressions that I was getting here is that there is a huge issue of not getting a lot of support. And when you go through these periods of not having a lot of support, there are all of these different ways that the deficiency of that starts to manifest. So one huge thing was that you get very guarded and very walled up and bottled up. You get really, really bottled up in your feelings. And maybe at times it feels like you're being productive and it can express itself in like workaholism. But then on the other sides of it, you may feel productive, like with wellness and like, okay, I'm gonna like figure out these feelings, and you just end up doing everything by yourself. And on the other side of this too, it's literally just, I'm gonna bottle this up. I don't want to share this with anyone. This is too much of a burden to put onto other people. Thinking that as you share just a piece of what is going on, you're assuming that that is putting the whole weight of what you are carrying onto other people. But you are realizing that the way you have been going about things, the way that you have been relating with people, just isn't helpful for you anymore. You are just really outgrowing this way that you had been relating with people. And you're realizing that actually, as you just share a little piece of you, of what you're going through, of what you're struggling with, or how you're really feeling, it takes off a weight from all that you've been carrying. I don't know if you guys have been having like shoulder aches, back aches, tension around the neck and the shoulders, maybe even the lower jaw or the chest as well. Maybe feeling a lot of anxiety in your chest. But this is all related to this issue of having a hard time opening up to people. And then on the other end, and only a few will be able to relate to this secondary message around that as an issue. When you go so much in deficit with not really receiving much emotional support, where you feel like there is enough room for your feelings to kind of be placed on the table, it's important to note too that sometimes you may have the experience in yourself that there is not enough room, or you feel like there is not enough room, but that's not actually reality. And it may be something that you need to train yourself out of to actually attune to the reality of how much space and capacity other people actually have. Because if you've had this issue where you're doing everything yourself and you're taking on all your problems yourself and you're fixing everything yourself, or at least trying to, or at least struggling in silence, you'll probably have had growing up people who just don't seem like they have the space. They've got too much on their plate. They're too busy. They don't have the tools, and whatever it is, it's just this like there is never enough for you. And sometimes you are still entering into current relationships or assuming and even genuinely feeling and interpreting people through that lens, when it's it's more connected to um the childhood patterns. And the weird interesting thing is when it comes to certain, I will call them spiritual lessons. And I think some of this has been starting to be explored in psychology with transference, where if you had somebody who had these types of issues where they felt like no one ever had room for them, then oddly enough, they would only really encounter and perceive people when they're at their busiest. They would actually, you know, somehow just be very plugged into that reality, even to the point where it's like there is like a friend who does have space, but every time you do go reach out, it's always at their busiest. And it kind of like plays into these themes. And as you start to slow down and make space to change how you are relating with the world, then people literally change around you. Because other people can unconsciously be playing into these dynamics too. And of course, if they are very transfixed into whatever their pattern is that directly goes against yours and is painful, then that's another thing. But as you change your relationship with even the phenomena of this of this happening, of being more aware, bringing your awareness into all of these things that come up for you when you're gonna share, and working through it so that you actually do it, it big changes. And don't be afraid to say, hey, this takes a lot for me to share, and I have problems when people are not present with my issues. I really, you know, if you can make some space to be really present with this thing, because I really need that. People are going to be less likely to unconsciously mirror, you know, the patterns around this whole thing. They're also less likely to also just get busy human. You know, there's a whole busy human vibe, right? And it just means that they can really choose to attune to you. And I feel like the people that I'm speaking to are people who are really go through these, like, just have a really profound capacity to attune to others. And it's it's gone through many different phases where it either is like super shut down, where you're literally the opposite of attuned. You're saying inappropriate things, making inappropriate jokes, saying things at the wrong time, saying things that are insensitive. Or on the other side of it, it's like you can be so attuned to other people and what they need, and it becomes this like over giving, over sensitivity to what is going on with everyone else, which also may feed that cycle of, oh, I can feel like they have so much going on, therefore there isn't enough for me. Oh, I feel like they have so much going on, therefore I should just try and deal with this thing myself. So just really be aware of that. That's what spirit wants you to be aware of. I'm sure some of you are coming to this, like, you know, you're exploring this already in yourself, that this is a thing. So there's a few more messages with this too, but the main theme is that you are changing the way that you relate. And one of those things that we're coming through is that you are moving into an era now where you are being a lot more honest with yourself about how you are really feeling about things. And with that, you're starting to be a lot more honest with other people right off the bat, if somebody's making you feel uncomfortable, or if somebody does something that gets some kind of reaction out of you, you are literally taking time to stop and figure out like what game is being played here. What game is really being played here? Is this somebody who is fucking around and is covertly, they know exactly where you're at and they are just choosing to be disrespectful, choosing to not be present with you, choosing to see what they can get away with, choosing to be rude or mean or belittling you or lashing out at you, and you're being a lot more productive. We have the little Starbucks. You're being a lot more productive now when things are bothering you. You are actually stopping and being like, okay, I don't want to play this game where I'm gonna end up feeling like actual dog shit because this person has done a behavior that makes me feel a certain type of way. It's like, okay, like I ain't playing no games anymore. You need the people, you need the things that you need. You need the things that you need. And maybe really down the line, you might be way more flexible. Right. I'm pretty sure you're probably going to actually find out that the things that you need are actually pretty reasonable. And as you present really to yourself, I think firstly it's like going to the self and like realizing what it is that you need from these things. And then you get to kind of dissect and figure out, are the people that you're going to have these needs met, are they the appropriate candidate for this need to be met? Okay, so I think that this is something that collectively a few people are really figuring out right now. And I've noticed there's this trend of like people who didn't really get a lot of choices of like school friends. Like think about this, like when you're a kid, you get into, at least in the UK, you get put into a class of like 30 people, and it's basically like the Hunger Games of like, if you can't find people that you click with, you kind of just have to like make do. And the same with parents too, like you're kind of brought into these family, you have to rely on these people for survival, and you just kind of have to make do with what you've got. And sometimes we carry this feeling around with us that we can't get better than what we have around us, or that we just have to kind of make do with what is currently available. And the truth is, you're an adult now. You're a full-grown adult. And that means that you get more choices. You get more choices of who you can reach out to, who you can develop the appropriate relationship with so that you can get those needs met. Okay. And it also means too that if there are some people that aren't living up to the standards that you feel like, maybe you've even set the standard with them, right? Or maybe this is a standard that you've kind of has been assumed upon them because of the label that they have. Maybe it's a boyfriend that, okay, like you're not really talking to me the way that I want to be spoken to. Maybe it's a girlfriend that just, really just like, they're taking, a good 3 to 4 days to reply to a message. And like in that time, it's just kind of making you a bit anxious. Whatever it is, because this is the thing. So many people will sit and judge themselves for how they feel and think that they need to be an island who does not rely on anybody else for their needs to be met. And that you need to figure out a way to get everything met yourself and still like somehow function in your relationships. And at the end of the day, like relationships and where you meet people and connect with people, we need to be able to kind of like take care of each other at least a little bit. Of course, like I've met people who have really high standards of like how quick they want a reply, and when I don't reply they might get really anxious and they might lash out. And in those moments, and if you're in this situation too, right, where that somebody needs something of you that you can't give, then like it's just your responsibility to just kind of like stop, be honest about where you're at. And this is for everyone listening to this message. There is a huge, thing coming through about stop, be honest about where you're at, and not being so fearful of the consequences of that honesty, because at the end of the day, trying to maintain an inauthentic image is not sustainable, right? Every time that you are choosing to not be authentic and honest about what you really need, what you're actually doing is sustaining a fucking role. And usually when you're trying to play a role in any relationship, then it's not good, baby. It's not good, and you don't want that. You don't want to be playing a role anymore. This is not a play. This is not a movie, right? Where you have to remember your lines, or you have to remember, the script. That's no way to live, and you deserve people who can really connect with how you feel and what your truth is, okay? And it's the thing is, I think that one of the messages that were coming through, I'm gonna pull up my notes because I haven't looked at my notes. So forgive me if I'm gonna look like I'm reading notes, and that's because I am. But one of the things that came through was that you have this habit of internalizing things. Like when people don't meet your needs, which sometimes often aren't communicated, you have a habit of internalizing it. Okay? So when people do let you down or don't meet your expectations, and maybe don't respect your needs or understand that actually like what you've offered to them is an opportunity to have your needs met, because sometimes too, people often, especially if you've had a childhood where your needs being introduced to the room is like horrified. Oh my god, like how dare you put this on my plate and make me feel like a bad parent because I have no idea what I'm doing, or I am too stressed, or I'm too preoccupied, or I'm currently just trying to numb myself up from a fucking terrible day at work, trying to get enough money to sustain this family. Please don't introduce, whatever it is. A lot of people, we learn to covertly, nervously, shrouded as well. It's like we introduce our needs. It's like we're nudging for this need to be met. We're hinting at it, but we're never really just straight up owning it as ours. And also, we're not really being kind of explicit about it. And I think there is a big taboo in being explicit about needs, because you're also a very understanding person. Like, you're an understanding person. You understand that humans are human, that no one can be perfect, that no one can do everything, da 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 da. But you're doing this thing though where you are literally enabling like potentially crappy people in your life, okay, that feed a really negative inner voice that you're trying to heal from, that has internalized all of these needs not getting met. Because then what happens is you'll go through a period of depression, a period of being lost, a period of maybe even wanting to, you could go through a lot of darkness. I'm just going to call it that. You can go through these periods of darkness, and what you don't realize is because you have bottled things up, not addressed things that have made you feel away in the moment. And I think you're still figuring out, okay, and this is an encouragement for you to, take that time to kind of figure out when you're disappointed or when things don't go the way that you wanted them to. Pull back and really reflect on what it is that you were wanting here. And also too, I think the appropriateness is something really important to understand, because like, it's appropriate to want your friends to care about how you're doing and to offer emotional support. Okay? If that's what you need, like, it's appropriate to expect that from friends. Just saying, right? I think a lot of people, like, don't realize that or don't know that or need to be told that more often, that it is appropriate to expect that. Like, if you put your feelings into the room that you're not feeling so great, like, it's appropriate to expect that people come and check in on you of like, okay, like, I'm sorry you're going through that, or like, is everything okay, you know, whatever that looks like, right? And if people aren't, if your friends who you think are your friends are not like that, then it's okay for you to simultaneously start the adventure of making new friendships. And that's not saying, oh, you need to like cut off all of these friends that don't ask about you, because especially too in some cultures and the way some people are socialized, like, it might be different from how they've socialized with you before. It might be different from how they've connected with you before. So you have to understand, though, that this is in your power now to start really navigating this without feeling so lost and so stuck. I pulled another charm, and it's basically like a hand like this, and it made me think of like giving people chances or giving people opportunities. And it's like, okay, like, I'm gonna share how I feel about this, I'm gonna give them one opportunity. And it's like having like a point system of like, you know, to kind of be reasonable. I think that's the point of things, because I think I do pick up on a lot of anxiety around this for some people. And I think maybe one of the ways that you can manage that anxiety is to like, yeah, have like a kind of point system of like, okay, like, I'm going to bring this issue to them like 4 times. And if by the fifth, like, or by the third, or by the fourth time, then like they have shown me who they are. They've shown me that. And this can be in any situation, right? If you like say to somebody, okay, like, I don't like it when you know, talk to me like that, so, you know, can you not do that? And like, you know, whether it's like a boundary or whether it's an opportunity for people to support you, like, if by time 4, you know, they've shown you who they are, they've shown you how they operate, they have shown you what they're available for, they've shown you. And that doesn't mean that you're going to need to condemn them for the rest of their life for it. But they've shown you what they are available for. They've shown you how they treat people. They've shown you what their attitude is about life. They've shown you these things. So you don't have to keep staying in this like limbo of things. And this is the really vital thing, okay? You do need to let yourself be emotionally supported, and you can create gentle opportunities, right? You don't have to go all out, right? You can just create these gentle opportunities and check in with yourself. What are these gentle opportunities that like you're okay to dip a toe in? And it's just like you're giving people a chance. Okay, you're giving people a chance. You're wanting to do this in like the healthiest way. I think one of your biggest fears is that you're being unhealthy, being unreasonable, being unfair. And I think it's like you have you feel sometimes maybe like a monster, like, oh my God, like, you know, setting boundaries or like communicating, it makes you feel like a monster. Or as well too, like, you are afraid that if you were to be unreasonable, or if you were to ask for too much, that would make you a monster. And a part of this dynamic too, I did pull the crystal ball, which is my charm for people who have psychic gifts and psychic abilities. A part of what you're experiencing too is being very tuned in on a psychic level to what is going on with another person too. So you're kind of like doing this dance, and I feel like and we're gonna pull some cards into this too, is to kind of like pull your energy back into you and like go back to the self and ask the self, like, you know, who do you love and what do you need, and how I would honestly just getting clear about what your boundaries are. And there is a lot to unpack here with like, and I think this is gonna, I feel like these are gonna be additional messages that are either gonna come through here or be on different videos. But it feels like there is a lot to unpack with like how much you tolerate, what types of people and behavior you tolerate, how much you tolerate in yourself, like how much emotions and stress and lack of emotional support do you allow yourself to tolerate before you buckle and like actually go call a friend who cares about you? You know, like how much do you let yourself tolerate? And this is something that is going to take time. I want to pull on this with some cards. So what do we need to understand? Wow. So we have a card of contest. So it feels like, you know, it feels like there is comparisons happening, like you are comparing, because also too there's a lot of anxiety around your emotional needs, like you're kind of comparing how you feel like other people's lives are or what's going on with them with you, and it's like they don't seem like they're in as much emotional distress and like anxiety as you are about this as a situation. But you are being encouraged that it's really important for you to be yourself fully. And you can't keep comparing yourself to other people. You can't keep running a little analysis about where you think everyone else is at and what you think they're available for and what you think their issues are. Like, no, pause, stop playing games with yourself that keep you hiding your shit and also keeping yourself from exposing the bullshit. Because the thing is, right? Yeah, it keeps you stuck. It keeps you stuck. This is what you do. And then you get overwhelmed. Okay. Then you get overwhelmed and then you don't have the willpower, reverse willpower. You don't have the energy to penetrate all this. All I can say is like, it's an energy. All of this like shroud that's been put up, all these shrouds of like anxiety and confusion and assumptions. And there's a lot of mental energy of, you know, trying to connect dots from like all these far out places. Like just pause, stop. Okay. Who am I fully in this moment? I just need to be myself. I just need to be myself, even if I'm a fucking anxious mess who comes off a little bit rude or a little bit needy. Everyone is so fucking scared of being needy. Why is everyone so afraid to be needy? Like, that's like, you know what? Like, I mean, being needy and feeling needy, it takes you back to being a kid, right? But just news update, you know what? Being needy is like, there's far worse things to be. There are far worse. Imagine being like cold. Imagine being genuinely a cunt, right? You know, needy is not, the thing is, being needy and maybe exposing yourself to someone as needy, you know, it does make you feel vulnerable. And this is the thing as well, where it's like, you know, you want to make sure that you're in a position in yourself where like, you know, who, like how much is appropriate. And again, you can do your test, you know, like your here's one opportunity, here's another opportunity. And then also I did actually just I like split the deck at communication. But then I like hid it away, which is kind of funny because I think that explains the nature a little bit of your relationship, where it's just like, okay, like I'll do like everything else but actually communicate what's going on. Can you tell us more about that, please? Oh my God. Okay. Limits. Know that limiting attitudes are often formed as protective reactions to past events. There's been times in your life that you have communicated what you needed, or you've communicated or asked for something and it didn't get met, and that kind of hurt you. And maybe too, again, it's just these past experiences. Yeah, having the intention to grow like a seed and bloom is at the very heart of creativity. These are creative oracle cards, so the messages aren't always gonna, but the card says seed. So I do feel that, like, yeah, I do feel that, like, your communication plants seeds with people, and that's important for you to do, because people who care and who are attentive will notice these seeds that you've planted. And, like, also too, these things, like, build on one another. So if you say something like, hey, like, I've been feeling this way recently, or like, I would like to, like, make some more time for each other. Like, if you plant like 4 of those seeds and none of them take root, then that's going to show you exactly, like, the direction of the relationship. Okay. And of course, like, this doesn't make anyone a bad person. Like, if they do not want that type of relationship with you, please remember there is plenty of other people who are willing to do that. This is not about your self-worth. This is not about you not being a good person or a lovable person. Sometimes it's just the way things are. Sometimes is that, you know, there can just be incompatibilities, or maybe they have too much shit on, where they're not in a phase in their life where they're ready to, like, deepen their relationships, or collaborate with you. Yeah, literally, we have collaboration and start. Like, some people might not be in a phase in their life where they are ready to start actively collaborating within their relationships. Okay? But the people who are listening to this, you are ready. You are in a place right now in your life where you are ready to start collaborating more with your relationships and actually seeing who is available and what they're available for, whether that's for coffee, whether that's for a tarot reading and counseling session, whether that's for art and chats, or whether that's for just video games, or like going out partying, like whatever it is, you are ready to start collaborating with your relationships, because this is how you're gonna know who's available for you and what they're available for, rather than just bottling it all in, assuming that across the board no one is available, or that you need to suck it up and do whatever, and then you internalize it and go through these cycles of, like, debilitating emotions. Wow, that was a lot. So, okay, it is important for your self-esteem to perhaps conceal the fullness of your plans, right? You don't need to have a really straightforward conversation where you're like, I'm going to be giving you 4 chances to show me that you're available, and if you don't, no. And this is also too another aspect of maybe what you guys are going through, is that you may have plans to do some new stuff, and you keep sharing those things with the wrong people. Okay, sometimes we do need to keep some things secret. Okay, and concealing our actions and concealing our plans to do things from people who aren't ready to accept us as we are. Okay, so when we're talking about authenticity, when we're talking about being honest, sometimes this is just honest to a degree, you know, honest to a degree. And with ourselves, we can be honest, right? Oh my God, that could have gone wrong. To our own selves, we can be honest, and we can be straight up of like, okay, I don't feel fully comfortable just yet, like, exposing all of these things, because I don't know if these people are ready to know this about me yet. I don't know if they're ready to know that about me, because you're exploring, like, you know, vulnerability when you have a tendency to like, you know, shield up and pull away. Okay. And I think it's important to, if anyone's listening to this and you are somebody who maybe somebody keeps like setting their boundaries with you, and like maybe you're part of a space where like, you know, you're not really feeling like you're fitting in. Maybe there is a message here about like changing the way that you relate with things. So it's like, okay, why am I so closed off here? And I pulled the card of cooperation, and it says your goal can benefit from you surrounding yourself with like-minded people. So potentially if you're finding yourself like in a group and you're just like not fitting in, there's a few things that could be going on here. One of them is that you might not be listening to the needs of what people might actually be like asking of you. So that might be asking like, hey, like, you know, I don't like sexual comments, or this is a more sensitive space to be in, or this is a gaming space, or we don't talk about feelings here. It could be anything like that. But if you are struggling, it's like you might potentially not be listening to like the emotional needs of the room. And you also, though, too, like if that's how you can reflect on that, and you can maybe ask like, what are the needs of this space, or just, even reflect on what you think they might be, and you can assess, whether or not that's something that you would like to try out as a way to be around this space, alternatively too, maybe you need to surround yourself with other like-minded people. Maybe you're not into your feelings and healing your feelings, and I don't know, maybe there's just like certain types of ways that you learn, or subjects that you want to learn. But yeah, this is about, we have Muse, which is about seeking out and acting as a positive, inspiring, helpful muse. But it feels like this is you having like a bit more, rather than maybe interpreting these struggling relationships as like something very negative, like using it as a way to, or having a more positive focus, a positive, inspiring, and like helpful focus, having a helpful attitude towards these things. Because I wouldn't be surprised if there's some people listening who it's like the idea of you not being able to meet the needs of a room, or like being on the fringes of something, and like that can maybe make you feel rejected, and like, it can kind of just go downwards into this, again, there was a message about internalizing, right? Internalizing these moments where others can't meet our needs, or because on your end the need would be to like feel included, to feel like a part of things. But it is a collaboration. We have two cards that talk to this. Okay, we have, where are they? Oh, collaboration and cooperation. So this is what relationships are about. Thankfully, if we're lucky, we don't really need to like do so much work with that kind of stuff. But I eventually, like, if you want to deepen your understanding of yourself and deepen the way that you work with the world, like, you do need to do work on yourself, which looks like self-reflection and getting to grips with these kind of things. And we have the card of time. So this is timing may be an issue here. Maybe you haven't been around people long enough. Maybe this is something, the negative aspect of this has occurred over time, and it might need just the same amount of time in order to heal it. You never know with these kind of things. The base card, though, is intuition, manifestation in reverse, and communication. So I think part of this as well is, you're getting hunches. Okay, you're getting hunches, and I think that you are being asked to communicate these hunches. Hey, have I bothered you recently? Hey, am I bothering you by sharing this thing with you? Because I think the base, the base, I was gonna say the best thing you can do, but then base is coming. I think it's like going into like understanding like where everyone's at, the foundational level of where people are at. But then I also have the card of pitch, which says be as clear, concise, and professional as you can be when you explain your ideas to potential associates. So I think when you have these hunches that you want to communicate, and this is the thing, like I think that yeah, being professional. It's funny because I wouldn't usually recommend people to be like professional, but I think it's just something where it's like contained in a way where it's like you're not blaming or being overly emotional. It's just like, hey, I have a hunch that, da. And I don't want this because the thing is, too, we have manifestation in reverse. Okay. You don't just want to like have things or have the relationship or have your own actions towards this relationship manifest just from the hunches that you have, and then like it go kind of like undiagnosed, uncommunicated. Okay. If someone's being cold with you, or maybe they haven't been speaking to you much, or whatever it is, it's like, okay, like, hey, I have a hunch that I've annoyed you recently, or I have a hunch that like you know you am I like annoying you recently with how much I'm saying or whatever it is. And you can give them an opportunity to like address things properly. um it feels like too a lot will be accomplished. So I actually have like a really good feeling about these things that are going on with how you're choosing to make these new conscious decisions. Again, being in a new era of being honest about where you're at and not getting so nervous about how that's going to make other people feel. Like, not get so nervous about how your true feelings are going to make other people feel, because honestly, it's just going to take out the trash. It's going to take out the trash. It's going to move people in their own ways, and the people who truly care and who are meant to be and supposed to be a part of like your inner life, they will be there, and they will also take on those like opportunities that are presented to them. Also, to like bearing in mind, it's funny because I'm thinking back to times where like there's times where people have like presented me opportunities that like I don't have the space for, which is normal. That can happen, right? Like someone can really need you in a moment, and you're just like, unfortunately, not at that time. They will say that. They will say, hey, like, oh, like, it sounds like you're going through a lot. I'm really overwhelmed right now, though, so I can't really talk, but maybe, next week or da 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 da. That's better than not. And that still hurts. That can still hurt sometimes if you're someone who has huge issues with lack of support, huge issues with people not coming through for you and things like that. But the fact that they're even noticing these opportunities, they want to take them, but unfortunately they can't. That's different than people who are just trying to avoid it, who are trying to deny it, who they're not interested. That's not what they want to be with you for, right? And again, you can question, is that relationship appropriate, right, for where you're putting those needs on? I always say that as well with the appropriateness of things, because as a like tarot reader and like a public face person, I have had people who, unfortunately, and it's really sad because like I can tell they have like emotional needs, and oh my God, I wish I was just like the everlasting, well of things. But yeah, I've had it when people have kind of inappropriately wanted to like seek out emotional support from me because of what I do as a reader, but they've tried to do like in the personal time, and not under like my professional practice and things like that. And sometimes my professional practice people, you know, they'll kind of introduce an opportunity for us to go beyond that, and it's just like sometimes it's not really what I'm there for. So I think it's really important to really understand the appropriateness of things. Like I have made friends from what it is that I do and from doing things professionally, but you know, you can only have so many friends, and especially too, I think, you know, with y'all listening, with you guys being psychic and stuff like that, you should probably be quite particular about who you're having relationships with, because it's really difficult to just have relationships with anybody if you are a highly sensitive or a psychic or an empath. I'm just gonna go through my notes and just see if there's any other messages that wanted to come through. So another message that I did have was that, you know, you are really figuring out like how you align with people and what you align with and what is truly okay for you. And if people aren't treating you the way that you want to be treated, it's time for you to start speaking up. Okay, it's time for you to start speaking up on things. That will give people an opportunity very, very quickly, whether to show themselves to you, to show like if they're sorry, or to show exactly that picture of things, you know. And it's just a really great opportunity to kind of get the truth and get things resolved. And I'm gonna be honest, like I feel like some of you listening to this, like y'all really need to just start being honest about where you're at, because you keep making excuses for other people, and like they're gonna keep undergiving, and they're gonna keep doing what they're doing and being kind of shitty, mediocre friends or people in your life, and they just get to get away with it because you are afraid to speak, and you are moving out of that now. It's time for you to speak up, because, you know, if people in your personal life aren't living up to, you know, certain standards, then it's time to be real about it. Because the thing is, when you get to be real about it, you can start to actually create solutions rather than just feeling stuck, and then also like just kind of going through like a lot of intense emotions by yourself. Yeah, a card just flew out the deck of generosity. Like you are being very, very generous with people, with your time, with your energy, with how many excuses you make for them. And also too, I think it's really important to understand and notice that not everyone is as generous as you. So sometimes you might be entering situations hoping that people are going to be just as generous with you as you are with them. That's not always the case. Sometimes it's important to just admit that some people suck, because that also too, again, you have this habit of internalizing things, right? You keep internalizing that, you know, you suck, or that you're a bad person, or that you're not worthy, and like you are worth good people and good things. You are worth people who make time for you and who listen to you. And also too, that's going to have to be a give and take. Like if you never listen to anybody, if you never like give to anybody, then like why are you owed other people doing that for you if that's not what you do? So you know, but I really do feel like this message is mostly coming through for people who have a lot to give. You actually have a lot to give. It's just a different thing that you give compared to like the status quo. Okay, and I think most people just don't actually know how to take what it is that what is special that you have to give. But you're already finding your people. You're finding your like-minded people who give in similar ways to you, and that vibe with the way that you give things, and vibe with you. We're gonna pull some more cards. So we have pitch and manifestation again. So it says, soon you may manifest the goals you focus your spiritual energies upon. Be clear, concise, and professional as you explain your ideas to potential associates. I feel like this is you getting a good idea of the types of exchanges that you want to have in your life. Okay, what are the types of exchanges that you want to have in your life? We have dream, actualization, and then passion as well. So this really is like thinking idealistically, dreaming of those ways that you want to have your relationships, and notice what feels good in your body as you're imagining it, and really focus more on like how you feel, how you want to feel in your interactions. Don't really visualize it like particular faces or specific things. I would actually allow yourself to be like, how do I want to feel? And imagine like emotionally, how do I want to feel in my relationships? And then you can start to build, like naturally then the mind will build, you know, a potential of what that might look like. But I would even say too, like allow yourself to be open to how you could be given to in a way that could make you feel good. For me personally, like I've done this exercise before, and like I have been very I've felt these ways of like, how would I actually like to feel? And then as I've gone throughout my relationships, like things have really surprised me of like somebody's done something and I'm like, oh, that makes me feel good. I didn't know that would make me feel good. That's different. And otherwise it would be something that I'm like usually closed off to. I've got the card of evolve. And it says creative ideas evolve out of the invisible and profound nothingness of proverbial consciousness. But this is, to me, saying that this is you evolving. You're in your evolution stage. A, you're in your evolution stage. B, you are evolving the way that you relate with people. You are evolving the way that you feel loved and the way that you feel connected to. Comment down below. I am open now to receive love and get the emotional support that I deserve. And 3, I think that as you explore these ideas of what makes you feel connected to people and makes you feel good and how you would like your relationships to get like the balance of those things, it's gonna start getting clearer in the physical realm. Is there any last messages that want to come through? Okay. Risk. Be aware or you will have to beware. Do not deny the risk and the hazards that you see. So I do feel that it is going to be a little bit of a risk. Okay. It is an emotional risk for you to be honest with others. But I do feel like I think this is the thing. It's like spirit's like, you don't need to deny, like this is part of being honest as well, right? It's like, you don't need to deny that there is no risk, right? That you might piss some people off or that you might push them away. Because this is the thing too. I think one of the things that you're afraid of is actually pushing people away. So we have delay, go deeper, and explore. So I think that with this risk, like I feel like you are more afraid of risking pushing people away by setting your boundaries, being more honest, asking for what you need. And it says we have explore. So this is just something that it's like, it's worth exploring. It is worth exploring. And yeah, you need to confront your natural tendency to put this off. You keep putting this off. And the thing is, like some of these relationships that you are encountering are still in their early days. Okay. So this is the prime time. This is the prime time. The prime time to address like things that bother you is in the moment. That's the prime time. And then if you can't do that, you know, because sometimes it literally takes people a few days, a few weeks to realize that something's bothered them. And then you're like, oh God, I don't want to like bring that up now because like that happened like a while ago. Please confront your natural nature to be like, oh, you know what? Like I'll put it off now, even though I understand now what's bothered me. I'll put it off and I'll wait for next time. I'll just wait for next time. Okay, I think that's it for this message. I hope it resonates. Let me know what part of it does resonate with you. If you want to see more of my content, you can go check out my Patreon link. But yeah, cool. All right, I will see you soon. Bye.